Hi, my name is Christina Washington, and this is my YouTube video presentation for Education 216, Professor Zipporah Smith. The component of literacy that I'm focusing on is phonics. Phonics in a nutshell is basically the matching of sounds and letters that is a consistent relationship. The book that I have chosen for my presentation is Zen Shorts by John Muth. This story is about a panda named Stillwater who encounters three kids. His umbrella ends up flying into their backyard, and the three children notice him in their backyard. The three children and the panda become friends. What they learn from the panda is several different stories that he tells them that all relate to their lives, and it really brings them wisdom because Stillwater is a very wise panda. Some questions that I would have before reading is I would have students look at the cover. I would ask them, what do they see? Maybe some words that they might be able to read. What does Zen mean? And what do they mean by shorts? Now, obviously, we have a panda in shorts, but the meaning of Zen shorts is Zen stories that are abridged for children that are meaningful for them. But I wouldn't expect children to know that, but the story puts a playful twist on that. I would also ask students, obviously, what the meaning of Zen might be to them, where they might typically find pandas. And then the story is about stories that are passed along through generations. So children may have stories that they have heard that have been passed along, and they all change based on the way they are told. And also, I would ask students who have they heard story from who they would consider wise, and how does that relate to them, and how they feel when they hear these stories. I'm going to read a brief excerpt from the story, and so you're able to get an understanding of how the book is and how he interacts, Stillwater interacts with the characters, and how he tells his stories. The next day, Addie went to have tea with Stillwater. "Hello," Addie said as she stopped inside. Come in, I'm far away," a voice called. Then she heard the voice say, "Oh, yes, come out, come out." Stillwater was in the backyard. He was in a tent. "This is a birthday present from my Uncle Rye," Stillwater said. "He always gives presents on his birthday to celebrate the day he was born. I like it so much that I'm not staying in my house right now." Stillwater invited Addie to sit with him. "You brought me some cake," said Stillwater. "That was very nice of you. Is it your birthday?" he asked. "No," said Addie. "It's not mine either," said Stillwater. "But let me give you a gift for my uncle's birthday. I will tell you a story." Uncle Rye and the Moon. My Uncle Rye lived alone in a small house up in the hills. He didn't own many things. He lived a simple life. One evening he discovered he had a visitor. A robber had broken into his house and was rummaging through my uncle's few belongings. The robber didn't notice Uncle Rye, and when my uncle said hello, the robber was so startled he almost fell down. My uncle smiled at the robber and shook his head. "Welcome, welcome. How nice of you to visit." The robber opened his mouth to speak, but he couldn't think of anything to say. Because Rye never lets anyone leave empty-handed, he looked around for a tiny hut for a gift for the robber, but there was nothing to give. The robber began to back toward the door. He wanted to leave. At last, Uncle Rye knew what to do. He took off his only robe, which was old and tattered. "Here," he said, "please take this." The robber thought my uncle was crazy. He took the robe, dashed out the door, and escaped into the night. My uncle sat and looked at the moon, its silvery light spilling over the mountains, making all things quietly beautiful. "Poor man," lamented my uncle. "All I had to give him was my tattered robe. If only I could have given him this wonderful moon." So as you can see, there's different dynamics in the story, especially with the illustrations, which I thought was very interesting, which, as a side note, might help children with the comprehension so that they understand the time changes in the story. So with the more basic art, you can tell that it's in the Zen story compared to the more colorful art when it's in the present time with Stillwater and the children. As an English language learner or children with specific needs, during lesson, it would be useful to provide a personal copy for children to follow along if it's available. Also, audio-taped versions, interactive books may be helpful for children, which they'll be able to hear the fluency, they hear the expression, and it also will connect with their comprehension of the story. And that way children are able to possibly remember some of the vocab, they will have it fresh in their memory, and they will have a more general understanding of the story. Also, if that is not available to the teacher to use for the students, the teacher can model the reading as well, because it's important to use the expressions and fluency as she reads so children can understand the differences and the changes in the stories, more importantly. Alright, for my activity, I am focusing on 2 Maryland Common Core standards, which is the RF3D. That means use knowledge that every syllable must have a vowel and sound to determine the number of syllables, which focuses on their use of prior knowledge. So that way, I pulled words from the story where children should be able to already have the ability to count how many syllables are in a word. So, for example, one of the words in the story is mountain. The children can clap mountain. They will understand through their prior knowledge that mountain has 2 syllables. The second part of my Maryland Common Core Standards for Phonics is RF3E, decode 2-syllable words following basic patterns by breaking the words into syllables. So, what I decided to do was that for every syllable, the children should have the prior knowledge to know how many syllables are in a word, but I would like to take that a further step by having children break down the actual vocabulary words in the story and understand that there is a vowel in each syllable. So, for my lesson, this can be done several ways. Children can work in groups, it can be done in a computer lab, it can be done individually. Children can use dictionaries to look up the certain words. Now, the words I pulled from the book, which is grade appropriate, which I decided around grade 1 or grade 2, I used farmer, sitting, umbrella, backyard, bear, present, escaped, mountain, careful, shadows, morning, and luck. So what the students are going to do is they're going to find these in the dictionary, whether it's an actual hard copy in the classroom or it's online through a children's dictionary program online, and they're going to look up each word. I'm not focused on the definitions of the word because these should be able to be discussed if children have questions or they should already know. Now, once the children go online, work in their groups or individually, whatever the teacher decides to do, they can separate the word by its vowels. Now, I know this is a little hard to see because it's backwards, but we understand that farmer has 2 vowels in it. So we know that since those vowels are, there's going to be 2 syllables in farmer. So what I would like the children to do is look in the dictionary and place the little dot where the syllables separate. And also, for them to understand and relate this back to the vowel rules, I decided to have them highlight where the vowels are. So another example, backyard, the two syllables are separated with the dot, and then the A's are highlighted. All right, and that is my presentation for Education 216. Thank you very much.